Hey guys, today I want to talk about the power of habit and the power of establishing routines in order to make your life easier. I read a book called The Power of Habit by a guy named Charles Duhigg. I'll hold it up now, and I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce this guy's name. This is what it looks like. And I'm going to kick off this video with the exact story the book is kicked off with. So, in 1993, there was a guy named Eugene Pauly. Eugene was cooking breakfast one morning, and his wife came in and said to him, "Hey, Michael's coming over." He's like, "Who's Michael?" Michael is their son. Michael is their grown son who they fully raised together in a loving household. Eugene didn't know who this guy was. By the next day, Eugene was suffering from intense fever. He was suffering from intense stomach cramps, and he was vomiting all over the place. His wife, Beverly, who was really worried, brought him to the emergency room, and they found out that he had viral encephalitis, which I don't entirely know what that is, but from the book, it seems that it's a relatively common disease or virus. However, in this case, it was attacking his brain, and it was attacking the parts of his brain where memories were stored. The physicians were able to get the virus under control, and they were able to put him through some rehabilitation. But by the time they had done all of this, the virus had eaten up or destroyed portions of his brain that were used for memory. To say that this was impactful would be an insane understatement. The man lost parts of his brain. That being said, he went through rehabilitation and he seemed to be able to hold conversations with people. Not great conversations, they were a bit repetitive. Kind of got vibes of 50 First Dates from the story. But in the end, he was sent home, and this is what happened. He goes home and he doesn't really remember his family. He doesn't remember his neighbors. He doesn't remember his friends, but he remembers the house. And he would wake up in the morning, and the first thing he would do would be go to the kitchen and fry up some bacon, have breakfast, hang out for about 40 minutes or so, and then go take a nap. Then he would wake up, go into the kitchen, fry some bacon, eat breakfast, hang out for a bit, go take a nap. Then he would wake up, fry some bacon, eat some breakfast, and go take a nap. And I am sure you can now see that something's amiss here, right? He's repeating the same morning throughout the entire day. Why? Why would he do that? So I'm going to tell you why in just a second, but first I want to say hello everyone. Thanks again for coming back. If you are returning, I really appreciate your support, and I look forward to hearing your comments, and I hope that you'll like this video if it's up your alley. For those of you who are new, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. I focus predominantly on financial management, but I am introducing other topics as well, such as life hacks, routine, productivity, things to that effect. So if this is something you're interested in, be sure to subscribe. Returning back to Eugene's story. Why did he do that? The reason is called the habit loop. And ultimately what a habit loop is that you have a cue, you have a routine, and then you have a reward. This is a pretty basic habit loop. And in this situation, the trigger was him waking up, the routine was him eating breakfast, and the reward was him feeling full and satisfied and then having a desire to take a little nap. You can apply this to so many aspects of your life. Have you ever been driving down the road and then it's like you're on a certain path? Like, for example, this would happen to me all the time when I would be visiting a friend who was near to where my work was. There was a place where I would turn off for work, but I had to keep going to get to my friend's house. I can't tell you how many times I just was in the zone of driving and I'd turn off to go to work and I'd be like, what the hell am I doing? It's not work time. I'm going to hang out with Jen. Like, what am I doing here? So then I would have to be like, oh, that power of habit, that routine was established, and I was following through with the routine. Why is it important to know this? The reason is because you can use this to your advantage. If you know that you can kind of like turn your brain off and go into autopilot, why not build routines to allow you to do that? Take some willpower in the beginning, but really you could build any routine you wanted. And as a matter of fact, that's what I want to talk about in terms of what I've applied to my life. So for me in particular, I feel like I'm always running out of time, and I'm thinking about like a million things at once. And so I now have an evening routine that I have intentionally established. My trigger is typically the kids coming home from school or me ending my workday, which is a pretty obvious trigger. And then I automatically, since I work from home, flow into a certain routine. And the routine looks something like this. Go upstairs, check on the kids, make sure that they're doing something relatively productive with their time. Or in other words, they're just not fighting, right? I just don't want them to be fighting all the time. They're fighting all the time. Anyway, digress. Then I will go to check what is on the menu for dinner that night. I will begin preparing dinner. While I'm preparing dinner, I have now established a routine that I will do several things while food is cooking because you can juggle. I will unload the dishwasher. I will grab their empty lunch boxes from their backpacks. I will prepare another lunch for them for the following morning, and I will put that into the fridge. Now, as dinner is finishing, I will serve my family, and then after dinner, now there's a new trigger. What's my new trigger? Dinner is done. Okay, everybody clears their own dishes off the table. They scrape them, they put them in the sink. While they're doing that, I will refill the coffee pot for the following morning. I will then rinse off the dishes a second time, stick them into the dishwasher so that they're prepared for the next day, and I will wipe down the kitchen counters and put everything away so that I can have a more peaceful morning. So in this little bit of time, because I've established these habits where certain things that would happen in ordinary life trigger me to do other things, I have now made my life easier for the following day. Similar to my night routine, I have a morning routine, and I've built triggers in there as well. The obvious one to kick off the morning routine is the alarm going off. And I have set 2 alarms on my phone. I use my phone as my alarm clock. The first alarm goes off early. This is for me to get up, to take a shower, to go have a cup of coffee, and then to spend some time with God. This is when I read my Bible, and it's a prayer time for me. That ends when my second alarm goes off, which is about 35 minutes or so later than when the first alarm went off. And that is my trigger to go get the kids out of bed. I typically set them up with a little bit of cartoons to watch, like ease them into their morning because they're still littles. And then I'll go make sure that my husband's getting out of bed because he's a snoozer. Once that's completed, I go and get myself ready. Like, I've already taken my shower, but this is where I would apply my makeup and get dressed and do all of those things. And then immediately following that, I am now stepping back out into the kitchen. I pour my second cup of coffee and I'm checking on the kids. Have they already started to get themselves dressed? What's interesting about this is I have my routine in the morning, but my family has their routine too, because by me establishing a firm routine for myself, they've ultimately kind of established routines where I am triggers for them in different ways. So for example, when I go in to apply my cosmetics, my husband hears me making noise in the bathroom. That's a trigger for him to be like, oh man, if she's at that point and I'm not out of bed yet, I gotta get up and get moving. When he goes outside to have his morning smoke, that kids will hear the door open, and that's a trigger for them to be like, ooh, dad's up, I better start getting dressed now. And so we have this really interesting or peculiar sort of set of routines and triggers that we're feeding into each other. By the time I've now returned back to the kitchen and I'm preparing my second cup of coffee, the kids are getting dressed. I'm asking them what do they want for breakfast. I'm getting that on the table for them. I'm making sure that their lunches are pulled from the fridge and set into their backpacks. And all of this is really kind of being done on autopilot. We've established these routines so firmly that we don't really have to think about it anymore. It just unfolds. And why is this valuable? It's valuable because it's known in the scientific communities, like in psychology, that the human brain only has so much willpower that it can use. Like, willpower is a finite resource. You can use it up. And part of the way that you use up willpower is by making decisions. So the more you can alleviate yourself from having to make decisions, the faster or the longer you'll be able to retain that reserve of willpower you have to apply it to things that are important to you, that require, strength and focus of mind. A really great example of this is, have you ever noticed that certain, like, Steve Jobs was a prime person who literally wore the same outfit every single day? Why did he do that? Because he didn't want to waste any of his decision-making resources or willpower in selecting an outfit. So he literally had a closet full of black shirts and whatever trousers or pants that he wore. Mark Zuckerberg, he is known for doing the exact same thing. He wears essentially the same outfit every single day. It's because they already are aware of the finite amount of willpower and decision-making capability a person has for a single day, and they've identified the power of routine and habit and how that can put you on autopilot so that you can use your mental resources to the best of your ability and in a way that's more productive for you. There are so many different ways that you can apply habits, and I guess probably the best thing to call out about all of this is, once you understand that all a habit is a identified cue, a routine, and a reward, you can change your habits. You can totally, like, a great example, I mentioned my husband smokes. Do you know, every time this guy gets into a truck, doesn't matter if he just finished a cigarette, he gets in the truck or the car and he immediately wants to smoke again. I mean, he doesn't do this when the kids are in the car, and he's not allowed to smoke in my vehicle, but that is something I've heard multiple smokers talk about. There's just this trigger of, I get in a car, I turn on the car, I start driving, I immediately want to smoke, no matter if I just had a cigarette or not. So again, if you can identify what the trigger is, then what the routine is, and obviously in that case, the reward would be like the nicotine buzz, you can disrupt the routine, you can change your habits. But it takes intention, and that would be an example where you want to change it. It's going to require like significant willpower. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to quit smoking, but that takes a large amount of effort. And so anything that you can do on autopilot to make sure that you have those reserves for willpower to change the habits that are bad that you want to break, it's going to serve you. So I feel like there's so much more to say about this, but I've got to wrap the video up at some point. So I hope that this was helpful to you, and I would love to hear about some of the routines that you want to establish, or the routines that you realize you have established but probably aren't serving you, or maybe they are. Maybe they are serving you, and you can give some tips and tricks to the rest of us. So again, be sure to like and comment. Oh, and guys, one last thought. In my next video, I'm going to talk about some time management hacks that have served me, and I think they'll serve you too. So that one's going to come out on Wednesday, and check it out.